Okay, so welcome everybody to the biochemistry information session as a part of the Everything Science 2020 science orientation. Again, apologies that this one started just a little bit late. We just had a little bit of a trouble on our end. Um, I see that everybody, as they're coming in, is turning off their mic and turning off their video. That's great. It just helps keep the bandwidth down and make sure that we can hear the lovely people that have to present. Um, and with that, I'll pass on directly to Donna Hunt.
Okay, thank you, Carter. I am an academic advisor with the Department of Biochemistry, and I can help you with any questions that you might have about our programs. If you have questions about admission or program regulations, if you need help with registering or course planning, or if you're trying to make sense of university policies, I can help you with that sort of thing. And you can reach me at bcadvice@mun.ca. So it's bcadvice@mun.ca. And we can chat by email, or we could set up a virtual meeting and chat about your questions. When we're back to campus face to face, you can make an appointment to see me through your Navigate app, or you can again contact by email and we can have a chat and discuss your questions. So, biochemistry has undergraduate programs leading to degrees in two subject areas. That would be biochemistry and biochemistry nutrition. So today, we have two biochemistry professors here with us, Dr. Berry, who is our department head, and Dr. Scott Harding, and they are going to talk about both of those subject areas. So I'm going to pass things over to Dr. Berry now, hopefully.
Okay, so hi everybody. Sorry for the confusion. We're here now. So I'm going to talk to you just for a couple of minutes about biochemistry. Then I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Harding, who will talk about nutrition. Yes, Nusrat, is that how you pronounce your name? Hopefully. We will briefly mention career opportunities are there. So biochemistry is the molecular basis of life. So anything that involves a living organism, biochemistry is the molecular explanation for how it's alive and how things go wrong. So pretty much if you're interested in anything living, biochemistry is an option for you, whether that be genetics, whether it be anything, pretty much. It's biochemistry in capital, but it's not hardcore chemistry. Biochemistry in this day and age is not the dry topic that it was maybe 50 years ago. The aspects of medicine, there's disease, there's health, there's therapeutic development, there's drug abuse, there's pretty much anything you can think of. There is a biochemical aspect. Yeah, very big, small chemistry. A lot of overlap with biology. More interested in evolution, ecology, that would be certainly very strong biology and low-level biochemistry. But if you're interested in physiology, that is certainly chemistry comes to the fore. So with biochemistry, because it builds on those foundations of biology and chemistry, you don't normally take biochemistry courses until your second year. So that's just something you should bear in mind as new students. If the molecular basis of life processes is something you're potentially interested in, you just have to bear that in mind through first year, because you won't actually get a taste for biochemistry, or traditionally you wouldn't, until second year. What we have done is we're just in the process of putting together a first year course. It's not going to be very detailed biochemistry. It will be called Foods, Drugs in Your Body, and it will basically take current topics from news, pop culture, everyday life, and talk about those, but how they relate to biochemistry and how biochemistry would relate to those topics and feed in. So we'll be looking at Dr. Harding will talk about that. So we're kind of using it as an introduction to both the biochemistry and the nutrition programs. Ecology evolution touched on in the biochem major, not to a large degree. And we do, there is a lot of genetics, there is eukaryotic gene regulation, there is prokaryotic gene regulation. Those are all touched on, but not from a detailed evolutionary ecological perspective, no. My recommendation was, if you're most interested in ecology evolution, then biology is going to be a much better fit for you than biochemistry. So that's just a question from Arij. Do you want to do food
Yeah,
and
sure.
nutrition aspects?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so sorry I was a little bit late joining there, but I don't think I missed anything. Had trouble finding the link. Yeah, so because we're one department, we have the two programs. There is a lot of crossover in the courses you can do. So if you are a nutrition major, or if you're a biochem major, some of the courses for each of the programs actually count towards the other degree. You can have a look at the calendar entry for what courses you have to do for each degree, and then you can see there's usually a list where you can pick from. So deciding which major you pick is really is not something that's um, I won't say not important, but it is important to pick a major as soon as you can, so you can stay on track. But you can. There's some flexibility in biochemistry that between nutrition and the biochem that might not be in other departments. The nutrition program focuses mainly on human nutrition. So I know we do have some people interested in animal nutrition and veterinary medicine, and we don't touch a lot on that area of nutrition. We do cover human nutrition, and we cover it mainly from a biochemical, a metabolism, and a human health perspective. So it's not a dietetics program. It's very different in terms of the courses and the basis that you come out, the science base you come out with at the end. It's very metabolism focused, but if you are interested in going on into something either in medicine or in dietetics or nursing along those ways, you get a very solid metabolic background that supports your understanding of all of the courses that you would do in your second program around nutritional management, disease management, these sorts of things. So most of the universities I've been at across this country have always rated memorial nutrition students as very high in their understanding of the metabolism, which is usually lets them rank pretty high in those classes when they do these other degrees. And like Dr. Berry said or alluded to, neither nutrition nor biochem are actually terminal degrees. You're not going to walk out with a biochemistry degree and instantly walk into that job that's labeled biochemist. That doesn't usually exist. It can happen, but for the most part, a lot of people do our programs, either the nutrition or the biochem, to as start of their education if they plan on going on to do a professional school. A lot of our students go on to dentistry, medicine, veterinary medicine, nursing, just to name a few. But then others specialize in the research area. So if you are interested in doing working in a lab, whether it's an academic lab or it's a company like a pharmaceutical company or a nutrition lab, something say like Novartis or Nestle, these companies, our program would be an exceptional starting point for you because it really focuses on the human side of metabolism, health, and disease, and that counts for both sides of the program. So I don't want to take up too much time, so I think it's probably good to throw it out for questions and answers. I got one right here. So career opportunities, I just touched on a little bit there, but we can go into that in a little more detail. But then someone said about biotechnology, both in the biochemistry program and in the nutrition program, there is in our programs a lot of focus on current biotechnology. They're not specifically biotech programs. Like there are programs like that across the country where you can do these biotech programs, which focus a lot on both machinery and applied methodology and these sorts of things in the biotech. What we offer is a very sound understanding of the metabolism, the molecular biology behind human health and disease and development. So these sorts of things. So that's what I'll throw out there. Let me see here now. What do we got for questions? Entry into biochem, major, competitive, or limited. Donna, do you want to answer that?
Sure, I can answer that. If you meet the requirements for admission, you will be accepted. It's not a competitive program for the major and the honors in biochemistry and nutrition. If you're doing a joint program and that department has a competitive program, say if somebody was asking about the joint program between biochemistry and behavioral neuroscience, that might be competitive on their side, but not on ours. Okay.
I see a question there about joint degree in biochemistry psychology, the behavioral neuroscience. That's actually a very popular route. Dr. Berry and Donna can correct me on this if I'm wrong. It's been has been discussion in the past between psychology and our department, as well as possibly going into the future to make that a more streamlined program. If I'm not mistaken, Donna or Dr. Berry, do you want to comment on that, or is it because it's a very busy course, let's say, to get through that program? Eh?
It is very busy. I think there's 38 required courses in it, and it's it's a 4-year program. It definitely can be done in 4 years. So all of our joint programs now, I believe, can be done in 4 years. But because you're doing 2 programs, they tend to get very busy and a challenge to schedule sometimes.
Yeah, so Tandire is asking about, can you work in a hospital laboratory with a biochemistry degree? Absolutely. So with respect to job prospects, you're looking at pharmaceutical industry, any health or medicine professional industry, allied health professions, sports science, human kinetics, even things like chemical engineering, food and drug industry, food and beverage industry, fermentation science, distillation science, toxicology, pharmacology, pharmaceutics, biotechnology, even environmental science. If you're looking at environmental impacts, environmental toxicology, a biochemistry degree is going to be a really good background for those. Even though we may not cover those specific topics, the material we do cover is going to be your foundation for those more specialized areas.
Kiana has a question there about kinesiology and nutrition. Yeah, without a doubt, if you can do a minor in kinesiology, we would be more than happy. Oh, Donna's shaking her head. Can't do it.
No, the HKR does not have a minor program.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying. If they had a minor program, though, we would love it because it would be an excellent match. So you could reach out probably to the kinesiology, the human kinetics and kinesiology group, and just check on that with them. Maybe there's something in the works on their end to have a minor option. But it would be a good match. There are some courses that overlap. There's an introduction to biochemistry course, which is actually a HKR course as well. And then we offer sports nutrition, which is a third-year course. A lot of fourth years take it, but it is a third-year course, and it's offered for there's reserve seating for HKR students in there as well.
And HK,
Donna?
yep.
The stars.
No, I was going to say that the HKR does allow other majors to do a number of their courses. And so they do allow students to do kinesiology courses, but just not a minor. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Basil is asking about is it possible for an international student to do biochemistry and then apply to medicine? I'm not an expert on the admission requirements for medicine with respect to international students. So I don't know what that situation is. Donna, do you know?
I'm not certain, but I do think there are some seats reserved for international students. I think so, but I'm not certain. And certainly a biochemistry degree would give a student what they needed to apply, I think.
Taylor asked a
I
question
think,
about a good choice there for neurological disorders, and I think yes, there's no doubt.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, Taylor, that's actually what traditionally my entire research program has been around. So now it depends what you're looking at with the neurological disorders. If you're looking for molecular basis, what causes the diseases, how to treat the diseases, what is changing chemically, how neuronal activity is changing, then absolutely yes. If you're looking from a more behavioral point of view, then psychology might be a little bit better. But certainly a combination of biochemistry and psychology, if you're looking at neurological disorders, then absolutely yes. Biochem would suffice, Arij. You don't need, if you're looking at going on and doing research, in all honesty, they don't care what your undergrad degree's in, to a large degree. Now, I mean, if you're looking to do research in neurological disorders and you've got an undergraduate degree in folklore, yeah, you might have a little bit of a problem then. But if you've got biochemistry, if you've got biology, if you've got psychology, even chemistry, they're not going to care to a large degree. So right at this stage, you need to do things that are most interesting to you. Sports nutrition offered before year 3 from Kiana. No, that wouldn't be an option just because of the prerequisites. Would that be accurate, Scott?
Yeah, the prerequisites are introductory nutrition, 2600, and a co-requisite is what it is right now for metabolism, right, Donna? It's not a pre, is it?
Well, the medicine, and for anybody who's going through our program, medicine 310B is a
Right, yeah.
prerequisite. So what that does actually is pushes it into 4th year for our students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you've got them done, there are exceptions. Depends on what your course base is. If because I've let other people from other programs in who wouldn't been doing medicine 310, and the HKR students, they go a different route. They have a different anatomy and physiology course that they do. So it depends on what program you're in. But if you're in the nutrition program, it usually doesn't come up for availability based on the prerequisites until year 3 or 4. Sorry, year 4.
Donna and Nusrat has a question about if they do the joint biochemistry physics program, would they automatically be considered a math minor because of all the math courses involved?
I'm not really certain about that. A minor is 8 courses, and for each department, there might be specific courses that you have to do, and then you can choose from a list for other ones. So I can't answer it because I'm not really familiar with the math minor and what math courses are done in that program. But if If not, Nusrat would like to email me, I will look into it for him, for her.
Yeah, and Tandiwe was just asking if it's possible to major in biochemistry and minor in psychology at a very research opportunities in the biochem department. Okay, so for undergrads, initially research opportunities would be through the MUSEP program, which gives you 40 or 80 hours over a semester. So that's, in all honesty, it's not going to give you much research. You're not going to be doing much in 40 hours or 80 hours on your first MUSEP other than shadowing somebody. Because over the course of a semester, that's 4 hours a week. You're just not going to do anything and you haven't got enough experience. A lot of us in the department use the MUSEP program as kind of a trial run for people who are potentially looking at doing honours projects. And it's a trial run for us to see if we like you and think that you fit in with the lab, but also a trial run for you to see if you like the sorts of research that's going on in the labs. A lot of students will do MUSEPs in 2 or 3 different labs over their first 2 or 3 years, just to get a flavour of what's going on in the different labs and see which one most interests them. And then over the summer, there is the NSERC USRA program, which unfortunately isn't available for international students, but there is the Dean of Science SORA program, which is an identical program and is available for everybody. That gives you 16 weeks of full-time paid research over the summer, where it's basically your summer job. And we normally have probably, 10 to 15 students doing that over a summer, Scott?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
And then, of course, for those who qualify for an honours, and I noticed there's a question about how the honours works. I'll let Donna answer that in a minute. But those who do an honours, you then do a 2-semester research project in a lab. So those are the main research opportunities that there are. If you're interested in what research areas, your best bet is just to go and look on the website and look at the individual faculty members. Because if I start listing things now, I'm going to miss someone out, and then they're going to get mad at me because I'll be accused of playing favoritism with some people over others. So just look on the webpage. Everybody's got what their research interests are in there. Nusrat's asking about a co-op. There is no co-op available in biochemistry. And the reason for that is simply there is very few biochemistry industry positions in Newfoundland.
Maria asked about what you can do with a biochem and nutrition degree. We kind of answered that earlier. I'm not sure if you joined in us late, Maria, but just to reiterate, it depends on what your career goals are. If your career goals are to go on to a professional degree, but either the biochemistry or nutrition option is excellent. If your career goals are to go on to work for industry in the areas of either medicine, pharmaceutical sciences, laboratory-based type degrees that focus on human health, our degrees are designed specifically to give you that background. The only kind of entry-level position I would think you would come out able to obtain with a biochem or a nutrition degree in industry will be something like an entry-level lab technician, most likely, or maybe something along the lines of communications or writing, medical writing, that sort of thing. Those are the kind of jobs that I've seen in the past that have just a biochemistry or like a BSc in one of these particular areas as the requirements that you'd require. But because of our focus on human health and metabolism, that's generally what we kind of our program is slanted
For
toward.
graduate degree.
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Mark.
Yeah, and that's pretty much true for any undergraduate degree. You're coming out with an undergraduate degree, you're going to be doing technical work, you're a technician, writing. Anyone who tells you any different is blowing smoke up your backside, because you're not going to come out of with an undergrad degree and suddenly go into a management position. It's just not going to happen. You just don't have enough experience, unless you're talking about a manager at McDonald's and they're just using the undergrad degree for 4 years. But if you're looking at an applied job that is related to the degree, you're not going to get into a managed position straight out of undergrad. It just ain't going to happen. And it doesn't matter what discipline you're in.
Yeah, that's pretty much standard for most science programs. There's a question about MUSEP, so I'd encourage everybody, if most people here obviously first year, I think, or everybody is, to apply for MUSEPs or ISWEP. That's the same version of the program for international students. Apply for those right away. Apply for whatever you're interested in terms of the supervisors. Look them up on the web pages that once you see which supervisor has the jobs advertised. I take students in their first semester. So, and I have one of my students who's in her third year now has been with me since day one. Her first semester, first on-campus job was with me, and she's been great. She's been there longer than many of my grad students, and has worked out excellent. So, and she's not even in our program. She's doing a different program, but she's getting her lab experience through my lab. So, you can mix and match. It doesn't have to, you don't have to stay within a silo of working within your own degree program. And then there was another question there I was going to just touch on. The how would it be different doing a joint degree compared to doing a minor? That's a big difference, because a joint degree means there are a lot of courses you have to do. You have to fit them in, and the process is very prescribed. Donna is an expert in this, helping people stay to schedule, and she could talk about it more. But a minor is very different, because it's usually a collection of courses that fit into a basket. Like a very common minors, I think, for biochemistry or nutrition would be biology, would be psychology, and possibly math or chemistry, depending on which route you go. But there's a very different set of requirements for you to follow as you go through. Donna, did you want to comment on that while me and Mark are looking through the other questions?
So was that specifically a psychology minor in that question? Because if it's a psychology minor versus the joint psychology and biochemistry program, psychology would give you access to different courses if you were actually doing the joint program. They have a slate of courses that are for majors only, and then a slate of courses that you can do if you're pursuing a minor in psychology. So that's a big thing. Somebody had a question about how the honors part works for biochemistry and cell biology. Well, you'd have to apply to the major in both areas, and then you would have to apply to the honors program in both areas. And the honors program requires a higher academic requirement for admission and for graduation than a straight major would. So you'd have to make sure basically that you kept your marks B and above, so that would be 65 and above for graduation with that. Like the other joint honors we were talking about, this would be a very busy program, getting the courses in that you would need. And probably most importantly is in your fourth year, you will be doing a research project, and you could pick which department you want to do that in. That would be your choice if you would do it in biology or in biochemistry. And typically, if it was with us, you would be doing a project in one of our research labs with one of our faculty members as a supervisor. And then at the end, you would create an honors thesis and present it to a group of people. Is that it?
Donna, there's a question about how many credit hours do you need for a joint degree?
Most of our joint degrees, I think they're all 120 credit hours. They should be 4-year programs, just like a major.
So the big difference with doing a joint degree is it's going to be much more prescribed. You're going to have far fewer electives. So, you're not going to be able to do those, as many of those basket weaving courses to pad your GPA. because you've got to fulfill the requirements for 2 departments. So it's a lot more prescriptive. You've got a lot less choice over what courses you do. And it's really important that if you're doing a joint program, that you coordinate early with Donna and make sure that you are taking the right courses at the right time and staying on track. Because if you miss one course, it can hold you back for a full year. There's a question about how will MUSEPs and ISWEPs be different now that everything is online. So some of those positions can still happen in the research labs. We can get some limited permission to allow people to come into the research labs. Others are being switched into a more online friendly environment. So it means that some of them may change. So, for example, there may be a little bit more focus on developing interactive web pages or something like that to highlight, what's the word I'm looking for, to highlight a particular professor's research areas or things like that. So people are going to have to be a lot more creative with them. Some of them, for some areas, you can actually do research remotely if it's computational based. So that's an option with some people, not necessarily with others. So yeah, it's going to be different, but there will still be a research focus component. One of the things a couple of us have been talking about is maybe repurposing 1 or 2 of our MUSEPs or ISWEPs to have someone develop or something like that highlights different researchers each week or something along those lines. So it's going to be a limited ability for some to be in the lab, but probably I would say 50% of them are going to get switched to some kind of remote online option.
There's also a large part of some of the lab work happens at a desk anyway, like data entry, proofreading data, proofreading written aspects of, like, say, methodologies and these sorts of things. These are all bits and pieces of science experience that you can get in this situation. So it doesn't necessarily have to be at the bench side or cleaning glassware in somebody's lab. So there's a lot of valuable skills that are done just from a computer basis. Someone asked about what degrees will be helpful for the MCAT. There's no particular degree is going to help you. If you should look into the MCAT, what it is. You need a bit of everything. You need your science, you need your reading comprehension. So I really wouldn't go out on a limb to recommend any particular degree to help you write an MCAT, Grace. It's more so if you can handle all the aspects of the MCAT, that's how you know if you're going to do well or not. It's its own entity. Like, people do the MCAT with music degrees. They don't have science degrees. So what they do well enough in the science sections to get them in the medical school. So keep that in mind. Don't focus your degree on getting into med school. If that's your goal, you should also have a plan B, which is do a degree you enjoy that's going to help you get a job if med school doesn't work out, because you're talking 10% or less success to get into a med school. Keep that in mind. Arij is asking about help centers for MCAT. I don't believe so. Those kind of things pop up themselves. You can search those out on Facebook for help groups, study groups, and courses that you can do. But we don't cater to it in our department. We don't really have anything to do with MCAT per se. A couple of questions
Donna,
around when to declare a major. Donna, I don't know when that is. Do you want to grab those ones?
Sure, I can. You can declare a major as soon as you have 30 credit hours. And among those 30 credit hours, you would need 6 credit hours in critical reading and writing, two first-year chemistry courses, 2 first-year math courses, and either the 2 physics first-year courses or the 2 biologies. You need 30 credit hours in total, so normally our students would apply after they finish their first year. You have to have a 60% average in those 8 courses I mentioned. And we process applications all through the year, so we don't have a deadline. So when you're eligible for admission, you can apply, and if you meet those criteria, you will be admitted. We do have a student society, and they have a Facebook page, I believe, don't they, Mark?
And Carter's just put the link in there for us too.
Okay,
Thanks.
good.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Carter.
I was just putting that up.
Thanks. Yeah, Nadan, those
Med 310 A and
courses
B.
in those are courses that are offered by medicine, but they serve as our degree. So it's physiology courses is what they are, and they're linked, if I'm not mistaken, Donna. Yeah, you have to pass one to pass the other.
Absolutely, you have to do
Yeah.
one in the fall and one in the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a full year course. You had to pass both to pass, and those are prerequisites basically to do a lot of the courses beyond third year for our program.
Yeah, it's essentially a human physiology course, I believe.
It is.
Any other questions from anybody? Hopefully we've encouraged you maybe to apply to one of our programs.
And yeah, as we said, if you think you might be interested but aren't sure, then keep your eye open in winter for the food, drugs, and your body course. That's going to give you a really good idea of what to expect in a biochemistry degree without too much science stuff in there. I mean, it's going to be science, but it's not going to be high level science stuff. It's going to be more cultural, everyday, topical, just to highlight how biochemistry fits into these everyday situations.
But also, if you're looking for a nutrition course to do while you're waiting for our new course to come online, most of you probably will be able to do 2600. It would depend on what other courses I think you're doing, right, alongside of it, if I'm not mistaken, Donna. So
Yes,
even if it's a second year course, there are a lot of first year students take nutrition, introduction to nutrition. So if some of you want to register for that, if you've got a hole in your schedule, by all means, have a look.
Do you want to be a neuroscientist? It doesn't matter. Speaking as an actual neuroscientist, it wouldn't matter one way or the other, in all honesty. I mean, yes, I could blow smoke up your butt and tell you that you should do the biochemistry major with a biology minor. It really doesn't matter. If you were going to force me to pick something, I would actually say do some combination of biochemistry and behavioral neuroscience through psychology.
Regarding the admission to a major, somebody's asking if they can declare in winter. You can declare as soon as you have 30 credit hours and you have those courses that are required and the average that's required. So you can apply anytime throughout the year and we will process your application.
Deanna has a question about dietetics. We have an agreement with Acadia, so there's a couple of routes to do this. So you can do it's 1 and 3 now, right? Or is it 2 and 2?
No, 2 and 2.
2 and 2, yeah. So you can do some courses here, some courses by distance with Acadia, and get entry into their program. There's a separate registration process for that for memorial students. You can email either myself or Barry Walters about that. I don't have Barry's email address. I think it's bwalter@mun.ca or Walters.
B. Walters.
Yeah, Walters, B. Walters at mun.ca. He handles that program, Kiana. But there are a lot of other options you can do. Memorial also has a graduate program for dietetics, which you can do here. They have one position per year, so for a master's or PhD, I believe. There's also, you would do either the biochemistry or the nutrition degree with us, and then apply to you would apply to a master's program for the dietetics, and that might be another route that you might want to consider if you're serious about dietetics, because some colleges now in Canada are going to require a master's degree for registration, and some employers already require, like if you want to work in a hospital as a dietitian, a lot of them require you to have a master's degree. So in this way, you would do you prep yourself for a master's in nutrition or dietetics, and then do the master's program, which gets you your dietetics credentialing in a master's program as opposed to your undergrad. So there's a lot of options there. So it's worth having a conversation. If you want to have a chat about it, feel free to email me, or Barry Walters would be another good person, like I said, to talk to. And Arish is asking, do you have to go to grad school to become a neuroscientist? Without a doubt, unless you want to slog it out for 20 years to get that experience. The quickest route will be to go to grad school. Not seeing any more
And
questions.
if any of you want to know how to biochemically create a zombie, Signal Hill Science Show tonight will tell you.
Check it out on Facebook.
I have no shame, sorry.
Just reading that last, there's a big question there.
Donna, so that's basically how do you register for winter when your prerequisites course is in the fall?
If you're registered in the prerequisite course, you can still register at your registration time, and it would allow you to register for the course. But if you weren't successful in your prerequisite course, you'd be dropped in December. Does that answer it?
I think you got it there, yeah.
Yep.
All right, thanks everyone. I'm not seeing any more questions there, but thanks everybody for attending. Hopefully we've encouraged you to pick our department for your major while you spend the next couple of years here.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Dr. Harding, Dr. Berry, and Donna Hunt for helping out and answering all those questions. I was really impressed at how well you did at answering all of those. And if anyone's interested, yeah, check out that zombie thing that Dr. Berry was talking about.
The Signal Hill Science Show, Facebook Live.
So check that out. No more questions. So I think that's all. See ya. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks, Carter.